Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome along to the Champions League draw. We are back once again for some more action in the UCL. Of course, tonight is not necessarily, this afternoon even, it's not necessarily a match that we're watching. It is, of course, time for the draw. We saw the round of 16 over the last kind of 2 weeks. Not the most amazing of games. There was some brilliant matches, some matches that weren't exactly as exciting as others. But what the important thing is today is we will find out the paths of the teams that are still in this competition and how they might be able to get themselves to the final, with the quarter-final and semi-final draw taking place in about 10 minutes. And joining me today, we will have Rowan a little bit later on in the stream. He's just currently sorting himself out, so he should be here in a few minutes' time. But we do have Mr. KD. How are we doing, buddy?
I'm all good. Ready for some mouth-watering clashes, Josh. Hopefully we get Bayern Man City.
Yeah, I mean, you can see on the bottom of your screen, we're doing it on StreamYard today just because of time and rushing about and stuff, but you can see the 8 teams on the bottom of your screen that are still left in this competition. We'll talk through each team in a moment very quickly while we've got a chance to. But as always, if you're new to the stream, don't forget to leave a like and a subscription. We will be covering the Europa League draw, which is coming up about an hour from now. So we've got 2 streams coming up today. So you don't want to miss out on that as well. And don't forget, if you're new as always, please do leave a like and a subscription as we are pushing towards 2,000 subscribers on the channel. But first of all, Kieran, let's start off by saying FC Porto, first of all, the first team that I put down on the list. You got to watch that match, an incredible second leg against Juventus. How far do you think they can go in this competition?
I think for sure they're probably the side left where everyone's looking at them and thinking, yeah, we'll take them. Whoever gets them has probably got the easiest ride out of them all. But they really shouldn't take anything for granted because, I mean, they've just knocked out Juventus with arguably one of the best squads in the world. I mean, I know Juventus, they kind of didn't show up for both of the games, of course. Pretty much got carried by Federico Chiesa at times. But Porto, fair play to them. They took the chances that they had. And, yeah, they deserve to be where they are right now.
Absolutely. So let's go through all of the other teams. As I said, draw going to be taking place around 11 o'clock. What we will do at that point is then, of course, we've got each little section set up. We'll put the draws on the screen, and then I'll also change it on Photoshop as well because I've got a document set up as well to get running. So we'll be keeping you up to date with all of that stuff as well. But looking at the 8 teams left, we just briefly spoke about Porto, of course, being one of the interesting sides left in this competition. I'll hold off on Dortmund because I'd like to see Rowan's opinion if he does get himself in the next 5 or so minutes. But PSG, of course, we saw them come up against Barcelona. I think that was the pick of the bunch in terms of the quality of the match in the last round. How do you think PSG can do in this competition? Because we saw themselves last year, as Rowan jumps in, how are we doing? PSG last year made themselves finalists, very nearly won in that tight final against Bayern Munich. Can you see them going all the way again?
I mean, they've got the squad to do so. I mean, they did fantastically well in a very tough group, and after such a bad start as well, they turned that group on its head and eventually, I think, ended up topping it. Of course, they had probably one of the hardest draws of the whole tie, getting Barcelona, of course, with another player in like Messi that's one of the best players in the world. Absolutely demolished that Barcelona side over 2 legs. I mean, winning 4-1 at the Nou Camp is no mean feat, and yeah, I've said it for Porto. Paris Saint-Germain deserve to be here, and I can't see why they can't go on and win it.
No, definitely not. Rowan, I held off. Hope you're good, buddy.
I thought we were starting at 11. Apologies, but I'm here.
No, it's all good. I held off because we were going to talk about Dortmund. We're going through each team very quickly for the draw. Dortmund, good result against Sevilla. A little bit of nerves, the last 10 minutes of that match where Sevilla scored 2 goals. What do you see Dortmund doing in this competition? Because you look at the rest of the pack, it's going to be tough for them.
It really is. And I'm brutally honest, I don't think we're going any further than the next round. Depending who we get. Really depending how it goes. But I think Porto showed that they have, like, quality. Yeah. They can, if they need to step up, they can step up. They did it. And so in the back of my head, I'm just going, I wouldn't want Paul. I would take a Bayern Munich. I would take a tough team. Just because if you lose to them, it's not acceptable. But I think I just feel like we would crumble against one of these easy sides. I think if we've got a fully fit team, I do think we can take it further. I think if Sancho is back, I definitely think that our chances of going through are doubled. He's such an incredible player. He's carried us through at points. Like a full fit Dortmund side, I think can go far if it's that defence. Is the defence. It's Hummels, Zagadou, Akanji, and then Chan. Seemingly Terzic doesn't know his back two, even his back four. So I think it'd be playing around to our strengths with Matteo Mori being out as well. Thomas Meunier will be starting at right back. So I think trying to do the overlap on the right-hand side with no Mori just won't work. So hopefully Terzic sort of changes his plans up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Dortmund do. As we said, look, all of these teams left in the competition are always going to be tough to come up against. It's been interesting to see how it goes down. But we'll keep going through the teams. Said the draw coming up about, I'd say, in the next 5 minutes with the draw YouTube procedure and stuff. Yeah, it's on the BT YouTube. Liverpool, next team. Now, if we'd have had Will in the building, he would have probably, of course, talked a little bit more about them. As much as we do. But Kieran, I'll ask you about Liverpool. Came through in that game against Leipzig. It was a 4-0 win on aggregate, which is a very good score indeed. But with the way that Liverpool have played out this season, can you see them making it to another final like they have done twice in the last 5 or so years?
I mean, I think that second leg against Leipzig was a very big game for Liverpool. I mean, the fact that they came through it unscathed, I think it shows that they've got the character. And of course, they've won this squad. They've won this tournament 2 years ago. They won the Premier League last year. There's a reason why they're still in the tournament, and I think it's going to be a tough one for Liverpool, but there's no reason why they can't go on and win it. Of course, they've not had that great of a season, but if they can get their front three firing again and sort out that leaky defence, then I think they should be okay.
Yeah, they should be. You'd expect them to go at least far in this competition. I think BT Sport's having a shitter.
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely terrible.
It's buffering and it's been awful, hasn't it, so far? I mean, they had Peter Crouch stuttering a few minutes ago.
It's not their day, is it, so far? And not their day at all. Hopefully, it might be Real Madrid's day, though. Rowan, we've seen them in La Liga this season in a title race right now. Came through against Atalanta in what was pretty convincing fashion after the second leg. Real Madrid, they know how to win this competition. Can they do it again, or is it maybe one too many?
Never rule them out, I think is what you can say. Is regardless of how they're playing this season or how they're playing the competition, they are Real Madrid. They dominate the competition for a good couple of years. And yes, they had Ronaldo, but they still have the quality in their side. I think Benzema can still take them through. Sergio Ramos is such an experienced head at the back that even though he's getting on now and he's done all this before, I think they can rely on him. They've got the youth coming up as well. You've got it's a strange side because it seemingly is very similar to their old side that won it around. You've still got the Ramos, you've still got your Modric and Kroos and Benzema around, but you've got the youth with Vinicius Junior, Valverde, Ferland Mendy as well. I think they've found now a blend of the youth and the old, the experience to help them through, but the youth to invigorate them. They're a good side. For me, it's the tie. It's all to do with if they get a team who can really match them, it'll be interesting to see how they adapt to that. But never rule out Real Madrid. The Real Madrid at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Going to be interested to see how they do in the competition. I'm going to turn my green screen off because it's making my camera really slow. It never fucking works on StreamYard. It's very frustrating. There we go. Turn that off for now. Should be all good again. Chris is in the chat. How are we doing? But he's put, I hope for Dortmund, Porto Dortmund or Real Madrid. He's put, hope you're all well. Hope you're good as always, Chris. And then Jonathan's in the chat. He's put, he thinks Chelsea's going to get Porto. He wants Porto as a Chelsea fan. I think there'll be a lot of people saying they want Porto. And then, of course, Chris, as a Liverpool fan, he's put, I want to avoid Bayern Munich, Manchester City, PSG, Chelsea, but have to play them at some point. To be the best, you've got to beat the best, which is exactly what this tournament tends to bring out at the latter stages. It's always the best playing the best. But let's move on to the next team. We've got 3 more to look at before the draw takes place. I know they've just got it on the screen now of the rest of the teams that are left in this competition. But Kieran, Manchester City, we were speaking about them when we did our stream a few days ago. Really the ones to watch, I think, in this tournament on incredible form. You said you want to see them come up against Bayern Munich. Can they win it for what has been, nearly a decade of them trying to get it now?
I think it's a difficult one for Man City because if they avoid Bayern Munich up until the final, I think in a one-off game, Manchester City could beat Bayern Munich. But in 2 legs, I just don't see them beating Bayern Munich. So they've got to avoid the German champions for that. But yeah, that's just such a mouth-watering clash. I mean, me and you, we spoke about it, the watch-along. What an amazing clash that would be to have Pep Guardiola going up against Hansi Flick, probably 2 of the best managers in the world at this current moment in time. And Manchester City, fair play to them. After an awful start to the season, have really come up and showed their head, and they've been fantastic ever since.
They have been indeed. Going to certainly be probably the team to watch the tournament. Jordan says, you heard it from me first. Chelsea will win the Champions League. Put those drinks down, Jordan. It's only 11 a.m. this morning. And then Mason has put his prediction for the games. He thinks Liverpool coming up against Bayern, Dortmund against Porto, which I think, Rowan, you'd be kind of a little bit nervous about that. Manchester City against PSG, and then Chelsea against Real Madrid, which would be quite an interesting tie on paper. Chris has put, I wouldn't mind PSG, vulnerable defensively, but attack too strong. If plays against Kabak and Phillips, for example. And then Victor, he's going exactly the way that I want it to go. He wants to see an all-English quarter-final. That's what we want to see, Victor.
We want derbies, don't we, Josh, me and you? We want derbies all across the park.
Yeah, I've said I want derbies left, right, and centre. I want obviously Bayern against Bayern against Dortmund. I want to see Liverpool against City. Of course, they're the only ones we can really get because there's no other Spanish sides left in.
Chelsea PSG is kind of a derby because it's the Tuchel derby.
Yeah, true. That would leave Porto, I think.
Porto Real.
Which, do you know what?
Yeah,
wouldn't be a bad game.
The Pepe derby.
Exactly. I was going to say the former Ronaldo derby, but yeah.
But no, it should be an interesting one. Still put your predictions in the chat, as we said. We'll go over the last team now, though. Of course, Jordan said in the chat he thinks Chelsea is going to win the Champions League this season. I watched them against Atletico Madrid in what was a really good, astute performance. I'll ask you both, can you see Chelsea winning it?
Not winning. I think they could go through. Again, it's all based on draw. I think they could go through to the next round. I think if they get a City or a Bayern, I think it's going to be a lot harder. But if they get any other team, I think they can knock them off. It genuinely all to do with form. If they come into this game with Havertz, final step, Ziyech, Werner, then big marquee signings they brought in, and then Mason Mount, was he out injured or did they just drop him for fitness?
I think he was out injured.
So if they get the players back fit, I mean, if Emerson can bag another goal in, like that's the thing, I think they could do it. It requires a lot of variables, but I think they could do it.
Yeah, definitely could. It'll be interesting to see how Chelsea do. Don't worry, I'm fiddling around. I'm trying the solo layouts and stuff.
No, it was all right. So did I, but I was just like, okay, I'm full screen. There we go.
No pressure.
They've got a good side, though, don't they, KD?
Yeah, and I think what you said there was quite important about the fact that if they can get that front three firing, and I know me and Josh touched on it in our stream on I think it was Wednesday night. The problem is that they just don't score enough goals. They're really good defensively, and I don't see many goals in their ties. But if they can't get that front three firing, it's going to be hard for them to win the Champions League, because you can't win the Champions League by just winning 1-0 every game, because you're not going to win 1-0 against the Bayern Munich, and in the second leg expect them to play a little bit like Atletico Madrid did. Very different sides, of course.
Yeah, definitely so. Very quickly, I'll read out the comments because Claudio Ranieri's out to go through the procedures. Today. He looks fresh. He
looks clean, and I don't know, like...
Well, does he normally not look clean?
I don't know. I think he's got more makeup on today or something. He's got like more makeup on or something. It looks smoother.
The thing is, we didn't see him last time. He wasn't there for the last draw, so... Yeah, he must have been out ill, so it's good to see Claudio Ranieri. But Mason's put he doesn't want to see PSG Chelsea. They've been facing each other for so many times. I'd like to see something different, like Dortmund or Real Madrid. As Chris has put, Chelsea's problem is scoring goals. If they get that sorted, they will be hard to stop in this competition, which I do agree with you with that. But of course, let's not forget today we've got the quarterfinals and the semi-finals. We will know the path to the final today, because the final will be drawn, so we'll know who technically is the home and the away team, although it doesn't matter because it's going to be played in a neutral venue. But we will know exactly the path for all of the 8 sides, how they're going to get there, who they'll face, which we'll talk over in a little bit. So we'll start off with the quarterfinal draw, which Hamid Altintop is going to draw it.
I can't believe they've got Hamid Altintop on the draw.
I love it. It's always every single time they do the draw. It's always a player from the past.
Yeah.
Like, I remember you.
Such a
and he just
niche
comes
player
out.
as well.
I was about to say, it's such a niche out of the blue player. I'm
It's
waiting for
great.
Albert Riera to be on next year.
And do you know what? He probably will be with the players that they pick out. It never tends to be like massive players. It's usually like club heroes and stuff of the past. But Hamit's out. He's looking. I've got to say, he's looking very suave, looking fresh and ready for the draw.
I like how they've got 2 microphones as well. They've got one on each side of their suit.
Oh, they have. I've never noticed that actually.
Is that in case one breaks? So if that's really smart, that's quite smart. In fairness, I'll give it to him.
It's very smart indeed.
We're all looking good today.
Yeah, very suave. I will ask you though. Of course, we've got the Europa League draw coming up a little bit later on. We saw last night, Rowan. First time Rangers have lost this season. Slavia Prague pretty much dismantling them. Who do you want to draw?
Oh, Jesus, United would be. I think would be the top, the sports corner draw. For us, I think in terms of like, I'd like to see Granada against sort of 2 underdog teams that no one gave a chance. Really, obviously Granada had a bit of an easier run-in, but this is their first time in the competition, and so to get to a quarter-final. So if they draw Slavia, one of these is making it to a semi-final. After people wrote out Slavia against Leicester and against Rangers, and they won that. Granada, first time in the competition, it would be a lovely tie. If not Zagreb, I'd really like. I just wanted to see how Slavia counter-attack the attacking like prowess of Zagreb and see if they couldn't sort of break up the defensive insecurities. But United for the sports corner, but Granada just because of the two underdogs. Yeah,
definitely. Benaldo's put my eggs are with Slavia Prague now.
Come on.
Go on the Prague, of course. If you've not been on the channel before, Rowan, massive fan of Slavia. Been quite a season, hasn't it? You know, we started off, what was it, in the preliminary stages, I think, of some of the competitions.
When we did the Champions League preliminary stages and they got knocked out to Midtjylland, and then they got gone in what I think was a group of death with Leverkusen, Nice, and Hapoel. I didn't say Maccabi Haifa for some reason. Hapoel. And then they had a poor start. The 3-0 loss to Hapoel turned it on. And they're here knocking out Leicester and Rangers in. The Rangers win were good. It was good.
It definitely was, and it means now they're the longest team left in the competition from starting off in the preliminary stages. Every team left in both competitions have been in since the very start. So interested to see Slavia Prague going on the longest European tour of the year. But we are going to get into the draw in a second's time. Lorenzo's put in the chat, but hi guys, best regards from Italy. Hope you're all good, Lorenzo. What do you think is the problem of Serie A teams of not getting into the quarterfinals except Roma? Because when you look, there was a lot of teams in there, Napoli probably being the best example, that haven't made it this far in the competition. The question's open to both of you. What do you think is the problem for the Serie A teams not making it?
I don't genuinely know, because the league is tight. It's not like it's the Bundesliga where Bayern run away with it. Obviously not this year. Or it's not like the Liga where PSG usually run away with it. The Serie A is usually like if Juventus are top, the battle for Champions League is so close. And I feel like when you look and you name some older sides from Serie A, you go, actually, 7 of them, 8 of them are even. And in one way, it's great because it makes the league more interesting. But I suppose they just maybe can't compete with any of the other sides when they get further deeper into competition. And very obviously, Juventus is the shocker mission. You'd expect them to be in this quarterfinal, but Porto shocking them in great fashion. But I don't know whether the league's too even, so not a team doesn't have that upper thing. I don't know, KD.
I just think there's only one elite team in Italy at the moment, and that's a really top tier elite. That's Juventus. But the draw's being done, so I'll hold off my view till after, so Josh can get us underway. We
are underway. This is it. So 8 teams left in the competition. Quarterfinals first. Remember, we'll join out the semi-final and the final as well. And Hamid Altin top. Not like last time, where I think we had an issue with someone trying to open the balls up. Does it comfortably? And the first team out, Manchester City, of course, the team who are currently sat top of the Premier League with Pep Guardiola, had a very comfortable 4-0 win against Gladbach. And they will be coming up against... This is a game that
no one will want.
No, definitely not. At home as well, which is the important factor. And Manchester City, will be playing in the next round Borussia Dortmund. Rowan, hands on heads. Not the
at
start
least
you
it's
wanted.
not Bayern. Is all I can say. It's tough. It's tough. I'll have faith in the guys. I'll have faith in the boys.
That is such a tough draw for Dortmund.
It's a tough one. Man City v Dortmund, the first game out. You see them on the bottom of the screen. Second game at FC Porto. Of course, going to have a home tie here for the first leg of their match. Beat Juventus 4-4 on away goals. Sergio Oliveira being quite an incredible player in his game. And then, of course, other few players as well getting on the score sheet. Pepe being dominant. I think that's Chelsea, from what I can see, as he's opening it up. It is indeed FC Porto against Chelsea.
Well, Jordan called it.
He did indeed. And that is massive.
It's a very sort of... I mean, that it opens the possibility for Bayern Munich to either get one of Real Madrid or PSG. Well, they're going to have to get one of them.
Tell you what, that tie's a nice little one, isn't it? Speaking of the German.
Speaking of Germans, Bayern Munich, they're out next. Bayern Munich, of course, wins the Champions League last season. Went on to beat Lazio. I think it was 5-2 on aggregate.
PSG, please.
One.
PSG.
Big one.
A big game. Won a big game.
So 3 teams left in there, Liverpool being one of them, and I'm pretty sure, as I open that up, I'm pretty sure that is PSG. It is indeed. So PSG, a repeat of the Champions League final last season. Of course, that should be quite a tasty affair. So Bayern Munich, PSG, next one out, which you can see on your screen. We've got one more game, which means Liverpool are left in the pot, and Real Madrid will be the home side. This will be a repeat of the Champions League final from 2018. So that is the quarter-final draw. We'll quickly run through them before they move on to the semi-finals. Dortmund will be coming up against Manchester City in the first quarter-final with City at home. Oh dear, Rowan. FC Porto coming up against Chelsea, which was a very good guess from Jordan. Repeat of the Champions League final last season sees Bayern Munich taking on Paris Saint-Germain, and then we'll have a repeat of the 2018 Champions League final. Real Madrid taking on Liverpool. I've got to say, 4 very good ties as we expected. No derby, sadly, but it is looking like it's paving the way for some very interesting semi-final fixtures, which is what we'll move on to in a second. But what's your pick of the ties?
I think it's quite obvious what the pick of the tie is. I mean, Bayern Munich PSG is going to be such a good game. PSG looking for redemption from the Champions League final last season. I do think, however, that Porto versus Chelsea will be a very good game. And do you know what? I think all 4 of those ties have got the potential to be very good ties. If Dortmund can take it to Man City, I mean, if they get a decent first leg, get a few away goals at the Etihad, then yeah, why not? But I'm going to stop because the semi-final draw's on, Josh.
Right, so we're underway now with the semi-final draw. The way that this is going to work is there'll be 4 teams in each section. So basically, first one, we'll see the winner of quarter-final 3. So quarter-final 3 will basically be the winner of, I believe, Bayern Munich. No, I think it's Bayern Munich, PSG, Bayern or PSG, and they will come up against in the semi-final.
Please be number 1.
Top. Yeah, Bayern Munich, PSG, number 3. So
it's got to be number 1.
They will face the winner of number 1, which basically means Bayern or PSG will face Manchester City or Dortmund. We have the potential chance here of a De Classica, or maybe even Bayern and Man City drawing each other, or even PSG. Who knows? But that's a good first semi-final on the board. So that's Bayern or PSG v Man City or Dortmund, which means that the home team for the second semi-final will be either Real Madrid or Liverpool, and they will be coming up against Porto or Chelsea, which if you are Real Madrid or Liverpool, or even maybe Chelsea to a certain extent, you'll be licking your lips and thinking, not a bad tie in terms of the path to the final of the competition. So once again, we'll go through the entirety of the draw if you've missed out on it. There's some very interesting games in there. So we'll start off with the quarterfinal. We've got, with the first draw, Manchester City taking on Borussia Dortmund. FC Porto are going to be taking on Chelsea. Bayern Munich, PSG, and then Real Madrid or Liverpool. The semi-final is Bayern or PSG v Manchester City or Dortmund, and Real Madrid or Liverpool v Porto or Chelsea. Now, they're just making the draw for the final. First up is Bayern or PSG, Manchester City or Dortmund, and they will face either one of those two teams.
They'll be the home side, though, most importantly.
Which, to be fair, doesn't really matter as such when it comes to being in a neutral venue.
Dressing rooms in it. One dressing room's probably going to be better than the other. So,
absolutely. But first of all, let's go back a second and see what you guys have been saying in the chat. Bernardo's saying he's going to be cheering on Pochettino, Saint-Germain. And he said these games are all very, very good indeed. Victor, I'll come back to his comment in a second because Kieran, of course, put in the chat. Man City might have to go on a German tour to get to the final, which is very true indeed. But I'm going back to Victor's comment. I think Dortmund are well suited to play against City. City have never done well against the counter-attack. They've struggled against Man United this season, who play a similar style. Let's go back to the quarterfinals. First of all, Rowan, your first chance. City, Dortmund, what do you think?
It's a tough tie. It's probably the second or the first hardest, toughest tie you can get. City are the best side in England right now, possibly the world, depending on your views. But as Victor said, when them centre-backs like to push up, and all it takes is one of their midfielders to steal the ball and Haaland is through. Like, that, they will play. Dortmund will play how they usually play. On the counter-attack, they will win the ball back and it'll be straight up to Haaland. It's all to do with how, if that defence can hold off Manchester City. And that's what I'm very worried about. Is I think if they got a Porto, a Chelsea, even a Liverpool, I think they could have beaten. Just, it's such a tough side to stop attacking. I think once they score, they'll come at you. They play boring, but luckily, I think that will play into Dortmund's strength. Dortmund can just, it's very similar to Slavia yesterday. Dortmund could just sit back. They will soak up the pressure of Manchester City. So all it takes is still, if Rafael Guerreiro is back, which I think he will be, him on that counter, along with Haaland, could spell danger. Could do. I'm obviously going to back Dortmund, but it's going to be a tough route. But it could set up some right semi-finals. This side of the bracket could set up a right semi-final.
Definitely, indeed. It's looking very, very tasty with both sides of the bracket. And if you're a Chelsea fan, will you be delighted with Porto? Let's not forget, 4-4 result against Juventus. Porto with the home tie first. Kieran, I think this tie is probably looking, let's be honest, the weaker, I think, what many people will call this one. But let's be real, Porto are not here to mess about. They're in the latter stages of this competition. And I personally think Porto will give Chelsea a very good go.
Yeah, no disrespect to Chelsea or no disrespect to Porto. I'm pretty sure both sides will be very happy with the draw that they've got and the bracket that they've got because they've missed out on City, Munich and PSG. No disrespect to Real Madrid or Liverpool either, but they've got the easier side of the bracket. And I mean, we've just seen them knock out the Italian champions in Juventus. And I mean, fantastic opportunity for Porto to get to a Euro Champions League semi-final. Because if they can take Chelsea over two legs, they've got all the momentum to go and beat either Real Madrid or Liverpool, who aren't having the best seasons themselves. So there's potential there for Porto, but I mean, they've got to come against a very tough Chelsea side.
Exactly. And do you know what? When you look at the form of all three teams, you could technically say Porto were the most informed team in terms of league status, but that's a talk for another day. I think that'll be an incredible tie. Quarterfinal 3. You know, straight away, Kieran, you said, what a tie this is going to be. Bayern Munich against PSG, repeat of last year's Champions League final, Pochettino up against Flick. That is the mouth-watering tie of the next round, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, both teams are so fun to watch. And I mean, I've enjoyed watching Bayern Munich all through the Champions League. They're just, wherever they play, they just score so many goals. The group stage, they were absolutely fantastic. Brilliant in the last round against Lazio as well, did what they had to do. I think, of course, they've got to do it the hard way this season. And go through two of probably the best teams in the world in PSG. And no disrespect, Rowan, probably Man City to get to the final. But then
Sancho's against his old side.
But why not? Do you know what I mean? Why not? They could definitely go for it back to back. And I mean, you can't write off PSG if they can get Neymar back. And of course, they have just knocked out Barcelona as well.
Absolutely. And I'll let you go, Ron. I think you wanted to say something, didn't you?
I'm saying the thing is, I mean, we'll come on to it, but we have the opportunity for the Classica, a repeat of last year's Champions League comeback, or maybe three of the best sides ties at City, Bayern, City, PSG. Like, the possibilities are endless, basically. Like the great.
No, I get what you mean. The possibilities are endless because you can even look at it, as you said, like you could get a repeat. You could get a De Classica semi-final, which I'm all down for that. We've been waiting for a derby fixture because we haven't had one yet. So it'd be nice to have one in the latter stages. But, I mean, the last quarter-final for me, I'm looking at this. I think this is my funky fun quarter-final, as in nobody's going to really be able to predict what's going to happen in this game because, look, Real Madrid coming through 4-1 against Atalanta is a convincing result, but I think it's expected. Liverpool coming through 4-0, which I think is, for me, still quite a bit of a surprise just because of how Liverpool have been playing this season. But when you look, these are two teams that maybe aren't on the greatest of form. I think Real Madrid on a much better form than Liverpool right now. And I think this has got the ability to become one of those ties that has just goals left, right and centre, with both teams turning it on at the important time. Because let's not forget, as we said before, they're in the side of the bracket of the semi-final where realistically both of these teams could make it to the final. And I still think, look, Liverpool, if they were to face Chelsea or Porto in the next round, it'd be tough. But I would still expect a team like Liverpool to go through. I think goals-wise against Chelsea, they should realistically score more. But already playing them this season under Tuchel, they've struggled against them. And let's not count out Porto, as I said before. I think Porto, if they were to make it through, would give Liverpool a really tough game. But Real Madrid-Liverpool, what do you guys think of that one? Because for me, I look at that tie and I'm thinking that's got potential to be an absolute thriller.
Yeah, I think what you said was absolutely perfect, Josh. It's got that potential to be probably one of those ties that has all the goals in it because, I mean, both teams, of course, they're kind of shipping goals defensively a little bit and they look a bit shaky, of course. I said both teams not having the best of seasons. But if they can both get those attacks firing, we've seen Benzema on brilliant form this year. Salah's pretty much carried Liverpool for a majority of this season. And, I mean, they've got a good chance either of these two sides. I think, again, you put it perfectly, coming up in the easiest side of the bracket. No disrespect to the Porto and Chelsea fans either.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. Let's quickly go over some of your questions before we finish the stream up. Don't forget, we will be covering the Europa League, which will be taking place. We'll go live around about 9:45, so we'll have a bit of build-up, and then the draw will take place around 12 o'clock. Kale saying a repeat of 2 finals in the last 3 years, which is spot on indeed. Can't wait for that. Ivan Dat Noob says, of course, we were saying earlier, I believe that Porto will beat Chelsea. There's always one underdog in the semis, and he thinks it could be set up for a Bayern-Chelsea final, which would be a very interesting one indeed. As Kurt's put, I think 2-0 to Real Madrid, so he thinks it could be fairly tight. But then Chris overall, he's saying, I'm happy with our draw. Real Madrid overaging, vulnerable defensively, fancy our chances. Liverpool v Chelsea like 2005 semi-final. If we go through, it's meant to be. And do you know what? When you look at it as a neutral, we might have the chance for 2 derby fixtures in the semi-finals, which would be great indeed. But Ivan Datnu has said he thinks it's going to be a Bayern-Chelsea final. But overall, we've got the paths now, boys, to the final. Who do you think is going to make it?
Dortmund.
And who they're facing?
Chelsea. Yeah.
Do you know what? How about a Dortmund-Liverpool final?
A Klopp final.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, events would be Tuchel final as well. Yeah. If I'm being realistic, I say a Bayern Chelsea final. No. Yeah, but I'll go Bayern Chelsea final. Genuinely, I think Bayern. I like that the final that side, that run for Manchester City is a tough run. I mean, I'm reading the chat for the draw, and they're all saying City getting the easiest tie. Never rule out Dortmund. Second of all, so they beat to more finals than Manchester City.
It's not.
And then, wow, it was still beat to more finals. And then, I think Bayern will eventually prevail. I think they will beat PSG. I think that'll be a close game. I think Bayern will either beat City or Dortmund. I think either way, they'll beat them. And then on the other side, it's such a tough one, but I think Chelsea played really well in that win against Atletico. And I think if they can just ride the momentum, I think they can 100% go further in this competition. I think they could get to the final. It'll be tough, but I think they could do it.
KD, what are you feeling for the final? I'm
going to go out and say this. This is definitely an outsider. I'm going to go Bayern Munich versus Porto in the Champions League final for 2021 in Istanbul. I think Porto have got the tools that they need to go all the way. If they can get past Chelsea as well, massive momentum, of course. Chelsea barely get beat against sides like this. And of course, we spoke about the defence being brilliant this season under Thomas Tuchel. And if Porto can get past it, because Porto were just such a tough team to beat. We saw it twice in the legs against Juventus. I know they lost the second leg, but ultimately went through, and they took their chances as little as they got. But they were very ruthless in front of goal.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I think this is probably the best way to sum it up. I personally think that this is one of the, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, the most open Champions League I think I have ever seen in terms of the possibilities, as you said, Rowan, are endless. We could see buying, personally, I look at it and I see buying Real Madrid, which would be an incredible game because the amount of ties that these two have had against each other in the last few years have always brought goals. We could see, is what Chris has put in the chat, we could see Man City v Liverpool in the final, an all Premier League tie again. We could see PSG coming up against maybe someone like Chelsea, which would be an interesting tie. I think for me, this is open.
I think the most shocking final would be a Dortmund-Porto, because I think the two teams that everyone is ruling out. So if God is watching, make that the final, because it would just be a surprise. No one would have expected it. It's been very hard. But
the good thing for Dortmund is they're playing away from home first, so they can set the marker down for Manchester City of how many goals they need to score. If Dortmund can just stay within a goal or two and take it to Signal Iduna, of course, it might be a tough tie for City. And of course, Sorry, go on.
They've only ever played each other twice, and that was in 2012, and Dortmund won 2-1. They beat them, drew 1-1, and then they beat them 1-0. That was so. Statistically, they've got the best shot. They've got the better record.
Who knows what's going to happen? We'll have to find out indeed. Carl's in the village, but lads, have a few minutes of free time. How did the draw go? We'll go over it once again before we finish up and have a quick break before the UEL draw even. So the quarterfinals, once again, Manchester City going to be coming up against Borussia Dortmund, Porto up against Chelsea, Bayern Munich against Paris Saint-Germain, and then Real Madrid against Liverpool. And the semi-finals, Bayern or PSG will face Manchester City or Dortmund, and then Real Madrid or Liverpool will be coming up against Porto or Chelsea. So that is the draw for the Champions League. Don't forget, we'll be back in about 15 minutes' time for the Europa League draw, where we might have the opportunity for Slavia Prague to come up against Manchester United. That is the draw we're looking for indeed. But don't forget, if you aren't available to join us, we've got more streams coming up in the next few days. On Saturday night at 5:25, you can join KL as Schalke take on Gladbach in the Bundesliga, a battle of the two sides with the worst form in the league over the last few weeks. And last season, isn't it, for Schalke, really? And then Sunday, we've got 2 games live at the same time. You can join myself and Kieran L. Sociedad taking on Barcelona. I'll be watching that game. KL will be watching Lyon PSG. 2 brilliant matches in the Liga and in France. And don't forget, we've got 2 spaces left now in the UCL FIFA Sim tournament. It's going to be taking place over the international break between the 26th and the 29th of March. There is a Cash Slav gift card prize now for 1st, 2nd and 3rd place. So more opportunities to win in the competition than we had in the Euros one. You don't need FIFA, an Xbox or a PlayStation to take part. Each game will be sims, so everybody's got a fair chance. And of course, we will do the actual draw for who faces who in that competition a little bit later on in the week. I think we'll do it on the 25th before we start the tournament. If you want to play along, don't forget, put your name in the chat. We'll add you to the list. There's 2 spots left, so be quick because those spots will go fairly quickly in the next few days. And then if you haven't already, do check out our social media, our YouTube. You're on it right now. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We're pushing towards 2K subs. If you want to check out our Twitter to see when we go live, and our Instagram as well, it's at @the_top corner for our Twitter and _sports corner_ for our Instagram. And then if you haven't checked out our website, it's thesports-corner.com. I believe, KD, you've just put up a piece based on the Champions League draw and who's facing who, or about to, at the very least.
Yeah, I'm going to wait till the Europa League draws and I'm going to put it up together.
Perfect. So if you do want to check out and you've missed any of it, then do check out our website. Link is in the description as always. But that is it for now. We'll be back in about, 15 minutes time. Thank you very much to Rowan and KD as always. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much,
and thank you very much indeed. We'll hopefully have a good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. And we'll see you about 15 minutes.